a second. Let's run through his Week 11 power rankings on NFL.com. Peter mentioned Bachman-Turner Overdrive earlier in the show, so we're going to do Canadian rock bands. Because I butchered that one. Let's go first to the Sum 41 division. These teams are in too deep. The Bengals down at 32. They're the last, but then the Falcons even coming off a win at 25. But let's move on. I can go bare naked, ladies. I'm going to do it. I don't make films, but if I did, they'd have a samurai. Indianapolis Colts, LA Chargers, the Lions rounding out that group with the Bears in the middle at 21. Now moving on to the lover boy division. You want a piece of my heart, you know where you better start. From the start. Texans and Chiefs rounding out the top 10. Bills, tough loss in your bottom right corner at 16, but they're looking to bounce back this week against the Dolphins. And finally, we move on to exit the Warrior, the Rush division. That power quartet of Leifson, Pert, Lee, and Jermaine. Niners, number 1. Ravens, number 2. Patriots, number 3. Guys, I think I see the Niners right there, even though they just lost the game to the team that is at number 4 on their own field. So why don't we bring in the man behind the power, the rhythm section of this segment, Dan Hanzus. Dan, good morning. How are you?
How are you? And Bare Naked Ladies reminds me of my college days in the early 2000s. If you really wanted to get a girl to like you, put a BNL deep cut on the mix CD and you go flying.
BNL?
Yeah, wow, all right.
I like BLTs.
Stephen Page, shakes big. All right, so let's, with respect to Stephen Page, let's go right to the top of Dan Hanzus' list. Dan, these always get interesting because the Niners are still number 1 despite losing. I'm sure Seahawks fans, Ravens fans have things to say about that. Why'd you keep him in the top spot?
Yeah, my mentions are an absolute train wreck. But you know what? The Niners played essentially their worst game of the season, and still, if Chase McLaughlin doesn't miss that kick, they're 9-0. We're talking about their bottomless well of resolve. Everyone's super pumped up about the undefeated Niners. So I think, you know, Schraigbaum put it very well on this very program yesterday, how the Niners, despite the loss, still
up the gifts
are
you ordered
okay.
online.
I mean, they were missing George Kittle. Emmanuel Sanders goes out, and you saw that there was a dearth of trustworthy options in that offense. Matt Breida goes out. Now, did Jimmy G play as well as he played on Halloween night? Not even close, and he does need to be better. But for a Niners team that had a bad night to come that close to still winning, when I look at the power rankings and I say, what's the snapshot of the league through 10 weeks, I think they're the best team still. But the gap is minimal. The Seahawks made that very clear.
Dan, welcome to the show. To use another Canadian songstress, rock star, Avril Lavigne's 2002 hit, Complicated. That is the word to describe what happened. I feel you on having to rank these teams this week. The Falcons pulled off the biggest upset of Week 10 against the Saints. I had a tough time with this in the top 5 we did yesterday. You dropped New Orleans out of your top 5, just outside of that, for putting up the 9 points that they did. Should fans be worried? Is this a sign of things to come?
I don't think so, and it was very difficult because even as I put them at 6, it didn't feel totally right. But then you looked at the teams ahead of them and the way they played against the Falcons, and it just seemed like where they should be. That was odd, that game. That was weird. That was Black Mirror weird. That was the Prime Minister meets the pig weird. I'm still trying to figure out, as I'm watching that game, how the script flipped on both teams. And the Saints, especially with that offensive line with Drew Brees, with Alvin Kamara back in the game, you would have no idea who was 1-7 and who was 7-1 watching that game without any context. So I just I mark it off as a bad day. And the Saints have those every once in a while, once a season it seems.
More impressively,
I know there are people out there, certain people in the football cognoscenti, as I call it, that think that maybe Drew Brees is not the guy he used to be. I'm holding on all of that. But I also, the eyebrow went up. It shot up because it was a strange, poor performance by the Saints.
Dan, 1996, the Bare Naked Ladies had a little album called Born on a Pirate Ship, and the song Old Apartment is about going back to your old ways, and the Steelers are now
as good as the NFC
back
is.
to their old ways. They're moving up from 5 spots
Alvin Kamara
to number 12. You don't have them in the top 10 yet. That, like Mike Thomas done an outstanding job. We've talked about that. What else do you need to see from Pittsburgh to get them up into their top 10?
You know, we're in 1996, Canada rock. We're going to get to Alanis Morissette eventually, right? I think with Pittsburgh, the defense is for real. We know that. And what a team performance. Minkah Fitzpatrick gets all of the shine right now, and he deserves it for the impact he's had there. And it's a reminder of the old adage, good teams stay good, bad teams stay bad. When they went and got Fitzpatrick from the Dolphins, we should have known immediately not to worry about the draft pick and all that malarkey because the Steelers knew what they were doing. But what makes them more than a feel-good story is the offense. I mean, Mason Rudolph, who needs to be better. Right now, he's a subpar game manager. If he can get into like the Jacoby Brissett zone, not at that level, but maybe just a little bit better. He needs to show us that if the Steelers have an off game on defense, that he could step up and become a guy that can make some throws, maybe win a game with a nice, quarter or so of play. They need him to take the next step developmentally. I don't know if he has it in him, and I don't know, maybe down the road. This year, I haven't seen enough, but at the same time, this is a great story. They're going to hang around in this wild card race, absolutely, with that defense.
Are ineligible this week.
All right, Dan, so the Cowboys took a loss under the bright lights. They sit at 5-4, and yet you only dropped them one spot to number 8. Now, here's the thing. You actually quote Parcells in your column. You are what your record says you are. In the words of Alanis Morissette, isn't that ironic?
Hey.
Yes.
You believe that Dallas is still a top 10 team. And I'll quote another Canadian song artist. What do you mean? Justin Bieber.
Oh my gosh, this is the best show on television. I think.
Promo. You got it in the promo.
Dan.
Put it in the promo.
You're a jagged little pill.
No, I think the Cowboys are the hill that I'm going to die on with the power rankings. It's my first year doing it, and I didn't want to be impartial, and I'm not saying I am, but I believe in the Cowboys, and Parcells nailed it. The big tuna is scripture to me when it comes to the NFL, but at the same time, when you look at things like advanced analytics, you see that the Cowboys statistically are right up there with the top 5 teams in the league, and you just look at their roster, their offensive line, their quarterback, their running back, Amari Cooper is godlike right now. Their front seven. This team seems like it's ready to go on a run. I think the thing that frustrates me as someone who still sees them as a top 10 team is just their lack of boldness.
And if you have
an inability to embrace a moment like Tavon Austin calling fair catch is such a perfect example, so emblematic of that team.
Like in NFL,
Come on,
like,
guys,
I don't see
make me look good.
Drew Brees, I don't want.
No lack of boldness, Dan, on your timeline. Follow @DanHanzus on Twitter. Dan, it's been 1 week since you looked at us. We always enjoy this segment. Until next time, until then, we'll be watching X-Files with no lights on.
That's it.
The best show on television.
Hey!
You're in the promo, Dan. We get it. We'll be back after this with the latest developments with Colin Kaepernick. He's got a workout on the schedule. We'll give you all of the latest right here on NFL Network.
Chickadee China.
The Chinese.